Well, first of all, I know it's about endometriosis, and I've been suffering from that myself, and that was my first interest in it. But secondly, when I hear about the FEMaLe project, I very much think about the invisible women and that perspective coming to science when it has mainly been men's data that has been used traditionally. So therefore, I think that gives another perspective to the FEMaLe project. So it's not only that it's women's or specific women's diagnosis, but it's also that it's a very important issue to be raised in all the other discussions going on right now around the cultural things between men and women. And I could elaborate a little bit more around what do I think about when I hear the FEMaLe project, because when it comes to science within health and what do you call life quality and so on, in any perspectives, I think that in Denmark we are known to have the world's best registered data, and but when it comes to the FEMaLe project, I think there's a lot of other data types that are relevant to get better insights and understanding around endometriosis in specific, but also other health issues and life quality issues when it comes to this perspective. So therefore, what we call the citizen-created data, or you could call it GDPR regulated data, because that's a broader perspective. Then you are not within the specific health data area, because that's a gray zone when it comes to what we are working with in Data for Good. But when you look at it from a GDPR regulated perspective, then all these data can be activated through a consent and through the perspective where the individual has the control of his own data or her own data. And in this specific regards, when it comes to the FEMaLe project, I think that you get much more and better insights when you can actually activate a consent and have the patients sharing all different kinds of also private data, which is not Danish traditional registered data. And that's what I've been discussing very much with Ulrik through the years. And I think I hope that's where we're getting to and getting better understanding to which extent that these data can also create value in a scientific perspective, but also in a health perspective. When we talk about the GDPR regulated data, I think you can approach it two ways. Either you can say, but there's so much regulation around it, it's too hard to activate them, and there are so many regulations. Or you can look at it and say there are so many possibilities, but you really need to respect the fact that it is the citizen or the patient who controls her own data. So if you can actually convince in a positive way the patient to give consent to share their data, then the technologies to do this in a secure way are all there. They are all very mature. You can do it without you can use it. You can use the zero knowledge sharing technologies like we do with the multi-party computation. So there's no danger in sharing these data, but there's so much value in it. So I think it's very much a perspective if you see the glasses half filled or half empty, which perspective you address it. When I'm out talking about what we believe in Data for Good, that the individual should control their own data and we all need to respect that, then I used to say that I want everyone to love GDPR, because there are so many great perspectives using the GDPR in the right way, respecting the individual's control of their own data. But as it is today, it's very hard to activate these data because they are in silos and there's no really or common infrastructure that can actually solve this issue. But that's not true, because it's just a matter of new collaboration models as we see it. So that's also one of the parts that I believe that this FEMaLe project, that I can contribute to it at a later stage. My biggest professional strength is that I'm an idealist, because I've been working with data and data-driven marketing for 25 years. You could call it on the dark side. but what we have been doing is, with respect for the citizens, or for the customers, we have said, okay, how can we be better at marketing some products in a relevant way to specific customer groups or target groups. And I think it's very much the same methodologies that I'm bringing into this health space area or data area in general, because I think that the biggest problem is that public sector as well as private sector right now is closing around themselves. They're sort of, it's very hard to share data and to get the data to activate the value of data when it comes to my health. But it is my health and it is my data. So if we can create this neutral intermediary where it's not money and it's not state driving the perspectives, then I believe that we can create much better value for society as such, and for patients and health, in a specific way for the individual. But there's no motives for doing this. So therefore, I've had my own story. I've been working with data-driven marketing on the dark side, and then I have had my own health experience where I experienced how hard it was to share data. And therefore, I thought, well, we need this neutral intermediary to go in and kind of catalyze that this can be done based on new collaboration models between public and private sector. But you really need to go one step back and respect that the individual controls their data and give consent to share their public data with private entities and private data with public entities, as long as they can provide some value for me. That could be science, that could be better health services, that could be better pharmaceuticals or whatever. And then obviously I will share if I can do it in a secure way. So I think that's what I can bring into this area, and that's my biggest strength, if you could say so. It is that I can see that we really need to step one step back. All of us respect the individual, work 100% with citizen centricity, like we have been working with customer centricity in marketing for many years. And it is, I mean, it is proved there is a great value in doing so. So, but there's also a lot of different motives and barriers and so on that that can challenge these new collaboration models. But we have built a governance model and an infrastructure that can handle it. Now we just need to activate that in specific cases where it can actually showcase value. And I think the FEMaLe project is obviously very interesting in this matter, because you need to not only activate register data, health data, you also need to activate personal data. Well, obviously, I haven't been able to be very much engaged so far, but I've been looking at it from the outside and following it with interest. And I think that why I really am grateful to be an advisor for this project is because I see so many perspectives in it. I see that the FEMaLe project is also driving a cultural change, you could say. It's driving a new paradigm, because you really need to look at, like the book I mentioned in the beginning, The Invisible Women. You are looking at it from specific women's health perspective. So therefore, I believe that we're also talking in Data for Good, we're talking about driving a new paradigm where the individual controls her own data. I think these new two paradigms actually work very great together and will work very great together. And therefore, I think it's very interesting for me to be a part of the project advisor group, because we really need to understand, we need to listen and understand each other and each other's perspective, because I think that we can actually really do something great for the FEMaLe project, working with data at a later perspective, but also driving awareness around a cultural change that we really need to get going. Yeah. One of the greatest barriers that I see in order for making these new paradigms happening is you could take it back to Jimi Hendrix. He has a quote where he says, "When the power of love will overcome the love of power, the world will know peace." I think you can actually elaborate on that quote, because I think that one of the biggest barriers right now is people are, and that's public as well as private sector, they are afraid of activating data, because what can that do? I mean, that's my data, it's in my control. And one thing is that I might not want to share my research data with anyone else, because that's my career. That's one thing. But another perspective is the legal issue. Someone can blame me for actually having shared that data if I didn't comply with the regulation. So therefore, you see some kind of hesitation for not sharing. You could call that control or power or whatever. But I believe that once we all see that we're all citizens and we should control our own data, and I want to share my data for research, that's been my biggest driver since I was a patient in the Danish healthcare system, because I had a very seldom diagnosed. There was 5 out of 1 million having this diagnosis, and I was just like, well, take my data and help me, because then I could have come back to my life at an earlier stage. But there's so much hesitant, and I think it's not because people want to be evil or powerful, or it's just because they're afraid. They're afraid of sharing, because what can that do to me, and what can it? And we need to overcome that fear. And the way to do that, I believe, is to show you can actually share your data in a secure manner, based on your control, and it gives more value to me and my health, but also to the researchers and to society and to the healthcare system and to the private companies who wants to make better services. But you really need to showcase it. And you need to showcase that this is not, you don't have to fear it. There's nothing terrible about it. It's really only good things. It's a win-win situation, but it's a new paradigm, yeah, and a new culture. Well, there's 2 ways, as I see it. We can support on a political and communicative, trail, because I think we are driving the same values, the FEMaLe project and the Data for Good project. But so that's one perspective. If you can, if we can support the case and the project in that direction, we will be happy to do that. So that's one part. But the other part is also if we could showcase some specific pilot where we can show how easy and secure it is to share data based on consent, creating value for the patients or the people attending the research studies, and that they can activate their data in a secure manner and it doesn't hurt and it's not dangerous, then I think that would be the best showcase also to communicate. So I think that could be something that we should elaborate and dig into to see if that could be just a small part of it, because I think that could really create value. And I think that could help. I mean, it could obviously help us to have more showcases. We are working on that in different areas, both within health and within sport and education and financial services. But I think that it could also help you to actually say that now we have done all this research, we have found all these patterns, but how do we actually then get the ball rolling? Not only within endometriosis, but in a much broader perspective. And I hope that you're not seeing the FEMaLe project as a closing project. I mean, it's not, when the funding is out, I hope you will still perceive the goals that you are working for. Well, up until now, or moving forward, I think that FEMaLe has been a success because you have really proved that you can create awareness around a really important subject, and you can get people to listen and to engage in different ways based on their different perspectives, because there are so many perspectives in this paradigm that you are entering and working for as a grassroots. So, but when has it been a success? It has been a success for me when you prove to me that this is not just another silo project. This is a movement, or this is a new paradigm, like we talked about before. This is actually creating transition and new ways of moving along. So then that's really a success. And what does that take? Well, for me, it takes that you not only do the talking, which you are very good at, and I think you have succeeded very, very well in that area, but you need to walk the talk and showcase it. And I think that's the biggest success criteria for me, as I see it. That's what I hope I can support, and that's the reason that we are so interested in following along. And
right.
Well, I hope to gain different things, because first of all, it would be great to have a pilot case or showcase with the FEMaLe, because I think that, as I said before, we have so many shared values, so it would really be like the hand and the glove. That's just a way of saying it. But what I also hope to gain, and what I think I am gaining also by this discussion, is that understanding the needs and motives and barriers for you from your perspective, and working within the science and also the communication. But I think that we really need to understand each other. And the most important thing in making change, as I see it, and making things happen, is to understand and have the same shared vision. And I believe we do, and shared values. So I really believe that we together could make a really great pilot that could really showcase within your area in FEMaLe, but also showcase within our area, where we says it's the individual who should have control of their own data, because that explores so many opportunities and new value. So that's what I hope to gain. Yeah. I was diagnosed when I was trying to become pregnant, but obviously I had had symptoms in so many years before that. But there was no one talking about it, and it was like a taboo. And I had to stay home from school, once a month almost. And today I can laugh around it, but I definitely didn't laugh around it at that time. And today I know that it's another time. You have all the social medias, you have much better information around things. But I think it's still very important to say that the earlier you find some kind of relevant fora where you can share your symptoms and what you are experiencing, then the better you feel, because then you're not alone. And I think that's very much what the FEMaLe project is about, not only within the endometriosis, but within women's health. It is getting more information, getting more awareness around what you experience is not you're not unique. Well, you are, but you're not alone. And I think that's actually, when I think about it, I think that could probably be one of the greatest gains. That is because we all want to belong. We all want to be part of some kind of normal population. The more normal, the better, I guess, at some point. But then again, yeah. So does that make sense? I must admit, I hate to look at it like women's health and men's health, but I'm also aware that traditionally, or a lot of science has been done within based on men's data. And I was at a speak at the FEMaLe this summer, where they were talking about women's health and science in women's health in specific. And then they said that, well, women were small men in that sense, but we're not. And we have a specific, I remember there was a girl, she talked about her first book at her study. It was actually a man body that was drawn in her book. And I guess she was much younger than I was. So that's still an issue. And I think that you should, when we prioritize public funding for research, I think I hate to say it, but you need to prioritize women's health, obviously, but it should be health in general, and then you prioritize it based on that. But obviously you need to get to some kind of balance, because it has been so unbalanced for so many years. So now you need to rebalance, and in order to rebalance, then you probably somehow need to make a big fuss about it or noise around it in order for it to find a balance, because obviously there should be no gender inequality, or there should be any inequality at this stage. And it doesn't matter if you are a Danish ethnicity, or you have, or whatever your background is. Humans are humans, and humans' health is important. So I need to be balanced.